Before the rise of AI, it was very difficult for a single person to develop a complete project. For example, when building a grocery website, a developer needed to have full knowledge of the database backend and front end. But now, with the help of AI, one person can handle an entire project from start to finish. There are thousands of freelance projects available on freelancer websites. And in this video, I am going to show you how to build a random project using AI. Hi, I am Udita. Welcome to UPC Tech Hub. This is me. On this channel, our goal is to learn, build, and grow together. Let's start the development process. First, I go to the freelancer website and search for the React Native projects. I am a React and React Native developer, but I only have a strong knowledge of React Native. On my own, I wouldn't be able to complete most of these projects. Many of them require backend, front-end, web and database knowledge. But in today's AI-driven world, we can learn quickly and implement solutions much faster than before. For this video, I have chosen a project to develop a task-based money-making app. The idea is simple. Users can complete questions in the app, and after answering the questions, they receive reward to completing them. Here I am copying a real freelancing project requirement and using it as a reference. Instead of guessing what to build, I paste the requirement into ChatGPT and asked it break the project down. ChatGPT quickly separated everything one by one: front-end tasks, back-end tasks, and required services. Honestly, its part is really impressive and very helpful. Now, before writing any code, we should not direct start development first. We need to design the full system architecture. That means designing the overall application flow, creating the system architectural diagram, planning the database structure, design the schemas and tables. When you see this kind of structure, it looks very clean and professional. You can clearly see mobile application for login and authentication services, tasks and require services, wallet services and KYC services. By the way, KYC means know your customer. I will explain what KYC is and why it is important in a moment. After understand all these services, the next step is database design. We need to decide when the database design, we need to decide which table are required, how the tables are related, what data should be stored in each table. Likewise, for the project I am choosing Next.js and backend for the backend and PostgreSQL as the database. Based on the feature and services, we can clearly identify which table need to be created for the application to work properly. So before development start, this planning perhaps helpful us avoid confusion later, build scalable application and develop faster with the confidence. This is why system design and database planning are extremely important before development design. Here you can see that ChatGPT has created the UI architecture, backend architecture and also the admin portal architecture diagram. In the diagram, you can clearly see the login flow, then the authentication layer and after that how the system connect with the admin portal. You can also see which APIs are required, which database tables are connected to each API and how different services interact with the database. This gives a very clear picture of what need to be created and why. Now, when I look at this structure, I understand that authentication is the first thing I should be built. So before creating all other features, I need to focus on user registration, user login, token based authentication. I asked ChatGPT what is the best suitable way to develop the backend, and it gave me a step by step approach, especially for the authentication part. I it explained clearly what APIs need to be registration, what APIs I need for login, and how authentication should work. Now let's move to the backend project setup. First, I created the folder called quiz app backend. Inside this folder, I initialized the project using npm init -y. Here I am creating the folder quiz app backend. Then I need to initialize the project using npm init -y. This command initializes the project and creates the package.json file automatically. Now I open my code using the VS Code. After that, I need to install required dependencies. Uh, for this project, I decided to use Express.js for the backend framework, PostgreSQL as the database. To secure password and handle authentication, I install Bcrypt for password encryption, JSON Web Token JWT for authentication token. To connect PostgreSQL with Node.js, I install PG library. I also install .env for environment variable. Before connecting the database, I had to install PostgreSQL locally on my machine. Since this project use PostgreSQL because of my client require PostgreSQL. PostgreSQL was running, but I didn't have GUI to manage the database. So I asked ChatGPT again, and it suggests me pgadmin4, which is a GUI tool for PostgreSQL. After I install pgadmin4, database management become much easier. You can next you will see the GUI of that pgadmin4. It is very easy to see tables likewise. Now back to the backend setup. I install all the required package just like Express.js, Bcrypt, PG, JSON Web Token, .env. Next, I created the .env file. Here I am currently need to install these packages first. Then I need to create .env file. Wait for it. Nodemon also need to be installed here. Okay. Here you can see what I install packages. Now I create the .env file. That file I include port number, database URL and JWT secret. For the database credentials, the username is own name. The password is my local database password. Then you can add your own username and password based on your local setup. Here I am talking about how to set up and connect the PostgreSQL GUI for local project. Actually, PostgreSQL was already installed on my machine. What I needed was the GUI tool, not the database itself. I already installed the GUI, which is pgadmin4, and then I connected my local PostgreSQL database to the GUI. Now the important question is, what detail do we need to enter the connecting the database in the GUI? ChatGPT helped me by suggesting the required connection details such as hostname, port, username, password, database name. By default, the host is localhost. The port is 5432 port, which is the default Postgre SQL port. The database name is very important here. Initially, I added the default Postgres database just to test whether the connecting was working correctly. In my actual port, I plan to use database called WizDB. So I will change this later. For now, I added the database only for testing purpose. After connecting successfully, I checked whether table are being created correctly. The database connecting is working fine. Everything works expected. The table were created without any issue. Now the next thing I am doing is checking inside pgadmin to confirm that the tables are visible and the backend is properly connected to the database. This step is helps confirm that our database is connect before moving forward. Earlier I already created the .env file. Now the next step is to generate JWT secret value. To do that, I opened the terminal and asked ChatGPT how to generate the JWT secret. ChatGPT gave me sample command and that I could copy and paste into my terminal. When I ran that command, I automatically generated the random JWT secret. Then I copy this secret and paste it into my env file as a JWT secret value. Now that the environment setup is ready, I can move on to the backend development. The next step is creating the database connection and the authentication APIs. That's starting with register API, login API. First, I created the SRT folder inside the backend project. Inside the SRT folder, I created the config folder. In the config folder, I created a file called db.ts file. This file is responsible for database connection. I copied the database connection code and paste it into db.ts. Here you can see how the database URL is being read from the .env file and used to connect to PostgreSQL. Now I set up Express.js. I created the minimum Express setup file and I added Express initialization, middleware configuration and basic routes setup. After that I created the routes folder. Inside the folder I created the route file authentication and added the required routes. Now for the password security I created the util folder. Inside the folder I created a file called password.ts. In the file I added password hashing logic using bcrypt, password comparison logic. Again I used ChatGPT to generate this code and then reviewed it before using it. Next I created a JWT utility file. This file is responsible for generating JWT token and verifying the JWT token. I copied the JWT related code suggested by ChatGPT and I added it here. Now that I move onto the controllers, for the first time I created an authentication controller file and controller handles user registration and user login part. Each controller function connect the routes, the service logic and the database. At this point, the basic authentication flow is ready. That includes database connection, password encryption, JWT token generation, register and login APIs. This structure approach makes the backend clean, scalable and easy to maintain. Now I am going to run the backend project. For the running backend, I am using Node.mon. Node.mon is very useful because it is automatically restart the server whenever we make changes to the code. I asked ChatGPT how to run Node.js backend project properly, and it suggested adding a script inside the package.js JSON file. Inside the package.json, I added the script like start and div. Div is used for development using Node.mon. After adding the script, I created the server.js file earlier, which is the entry point of the backend application. Now, when I run the command npm run div, Node.mon start the server and keeps it running continuously until I stop it manually. At first, when I ran the project, I got an error. This is very common, especially during the first run. After checking my error message, I realized the problem was a spelling mistake. I accidentally wrote password. That is, I added the additionally s. That is the issue. So the issue was not related Node.mon or setup. Now I want to test the APIs using Postman. Before that, I realized that Postman was not installed on my laptop, so I installed it first. After installing Postman, I noticed another issue. My database GUI was not working correctly because the database name is still set up to the default one. So I changed the database name to quiz data. Yeah, here is quiz apps. Yeah, sorry, quiz app, and after that everything start working properly. Now the database connection is fine. Here you can see the database GUI that the database is connected successfully. The users table is created. The table has separate columns like ID, name, email, password, and other required field. Uh, Next, I move to the Postman to test the API. Uh, First, I tested the register API. When I click the send button, I got the response saying user already exists. This is the connect behavior. Why? Because email and phone number should be unique values in the database. That means one email address cannot be used by multiple users. One phone number cannot be used multiple users. So if I try to register again using the same email or phone number, the API will reject it. To the to test again, I used a different email address, a different phone number. Then I tested the login API. I sent the email password that I previously registered. And as you can see, AWT token was generated successfully. Uh, Later, when I develop the front end, I will explain how to use AWT token in the front end side, how to store this token, how to send it with API requires, and how to use it for protected routes. Now let's talk about database migration. During development, sometimes we delete database, drop database, and or recreate everything from scratch. But the problem is when we run the API, the database don't have required tables. The application will break. For example, the users table multiple columns, and it's hard to remember and recreate them manually every time. To solving this problem, I created the migration folder. Inside the migration folder, I added SQL script to create the tables. I also added the migration command to package.json script. Now, whenever I drop the database or create the fresh database, I can simply run the migration script and uh, it will create all required tables with the correct columns in the correct order. This is the main purpose of the migration. They run once during the setup. They ensure the database structure is always correct, and they save a lot of time during development. With this setup, even if the database is deleted, I can rebuild everything very easily. Now I'm going to create a user device API. Why do we need this? Let's think about this scenario. A user registers using the using one device, for example, their mobile phone. Later, the same user tries to log in user the same email but from the different device. In this case, the system should be able to identify the track the user's device. For that purpose, we need to collect the store device related information such as device ID, device type, IP address, operating system, app version, likewise. To handle this, we create a user device API and store this data into separate user device table in the database. I asked ChatGPT to help me to create the controller and routes file for the user device API development. The first thing we need is an API to insert or update device data into database. This API will be called automatically in the background right after a successful login. For the follow is user login successfully, the backend generates a JWT token. Backend receive device information from the app, and user device API store updates the device data in the database. This API does not need any user interaction. It runs silently in the background. Now about the database, I already created the user device table. I don't want to explain every column here. I will share the code in the video description so you can check it here. The main idea is simple. Whenever the user login, the latest device data should be stored in the backend. For the feature, I mainly need a post API to insert device data. The same API can handle the update if the device already exists. So it works like this. If the device record exists, update it. If it doesn't exist, insert the new record. We also need get API to retrieve user device information when required. This is the main purpose of the creating the user device API. Then the track user login across the multiple device, improve security and support further features like device-based access control or alerts. With this setup, the backend can always know which device a user has login from and the latest IP address and device information. Now I'm going to test the user device APIs. I created two APIs. One is get API, one post API. Post API is to insert to update the device data. You can see both API inside the user device controller. Next, I added these APIs to user device routes. After that, I registered the route in the main app file using the correct database path. At first, when I tested the API using localhost 4000 API user devices, I noticed something was wrong. It was returning only one device name, which is incorrect. Then I realized the problem. Uh, we cannot fetch or update user devices data without passing the user ID. This API is user specific, so we must pass the user ID along with the device information. Initially, I forget to pass the user ID in the request. Because of that, the response was incorrect. The API didn't know which user device data it should handle. To understand the issue better, I copied the error response and asked GitHub Copilot about it. Copilot explained that the user ID is mandatory for the API to work correctly. After reviewing the code again, I found another mistake. I had added the user device route, but I forgot to import the correct controller in the routes file. Because of that, the API was pointing to the wrong handler. I fixed this by importing the correct user device controller, binding it properly to the routes. After fixing that, I got an internal server error. Again, I checked the logic and realized the real issue. The real problem was the flow. The first time device that data should be inserted. After that, on subsequent login, the same API should update the existing device record. But I was trying to update data before inserting it. So I fixed the control logic like this. If device record exists, update it. If device record does not exist, then insert it. Again, I will tell, if device record exists, update it. If device record does not exist, insert it. That logic need to be add to the controller. I also made sure that the use ID is passed correctly in both post and get APIs. After fixing these small issue, everything start working correctly. Device data is inserted on first login. Device data is updated to next logins. Get API return the correct device data for the user. Finally, I want to say this. Tool like GitHub Copilot and ChatGPT make backend development much easier. They help us debug faster, understand error clearly, and improve our code structure. But still, we must understand the logic. AI help us, but we are the ones who decide how the system should work. Now the user device API is working perfectly. Now I want to organize all the APIs in the Postman. Earlier, we already created the register API, login API, and user device APIs. Instead of testing them one by one randomly, a good practice is to create a Postman collection. This way, we can easily share the APIs with other developer. Anyone can quickly understand which APIs are available. Testing becomes more structured and professional. So in Postman, I created new collection. That's name is Quiz Backend. Inside this collection, I added register API, login API, and user device API. For the user device feature, we have a Postman API to insert or update device data, a get API to fetch device data. I added both APIs as separate requests inside the collection. Next, I updated the API path correctly and selected the correct HTTP method. Post for creating the updated device data and get for retrieving device data. For the post API, I opened the body section Postman and added the required JSON data. I copied and pasted the request body based on the backend API structure. When I tried to run the API, I got an error. After checking the error message, I realized the problem again. The user ID was incorrect or missing. This API requires the user ID to be passed correctly, especially when the device is already added and we are trying to update the same device. So I updated the request and passed the correct user ID. After fixing ID, I ran the API again, and this time it is working correctly. Now I need to create a get user details API. Why do we need this API? When user registered, we already store details like name, phone number, email address. Later in the profile section of the application, we need to show the user existing details. Allow the user to edit and update their information. Before edit the data, we must first fetch and display the existing user data. So the first step is to create get user details API. For this, we do not need to separate table because all user related data in the already is stored in the user table. To keep things clean, I decided to use the same user controller, use the same user routes, just add a new API endpoint for getting user details. I asked Copilot to help generate the API logic and then I reviewed it. This new API simply accepts a user ID, fetch the corresponding user recorded from the users table, return the details as a response. Since the routes are already registered in the main app file, I don't need to add anything extra there. I only need to update the routes file to include this new endpoint. Now let's test it. In the database, you can see that there is already one user recorded in the user table. I copied the user ID from the table. Then in Postman I pass this user ID in the request. When I send the request, the API return the correct user details. That confirm the API is working as expected. At first, I did get an error, but after checking the code, I realized the issue was again related to passing the user ID incorrectly. Once I fixed that, the error was resolved. This is very common during development, and good thing is we can get help from AI tools like ChatGPT and Copilot to debug these issues faster. So now we can fetch user details, show them in the profiles screen, and later we can update user API to edit the save changes. There is no need to explain every single line of code in detail here. The important part to understand how the API works and why we need it. I will share the code the description so you can review it yourself. Now I am going to create the KYC API. KYC means know your customer. The application include money transferring features, and money transfer is the high security operation. Because of that, the backend must clearly verify every users before allowing any transactions. So the system need to collect and verify user details such as address, national ID or passport, ID document images, selfie images. For this purpose, we create KYC request flow. How the KYC process works, the user submit the KYC details, the admin review the submitted documents, the admin approve or reject the KYC request. Only approved users can perform money transfers. KYC database design, for this feature, we need to separate KYC table. Some important columns in the KYC tables are ID, user ID, document type, document front image URL, document back image URL, selfie URL, address, status, review by and review not, created that, updated likewise. I asked GitHub Copilot to help generate this table structure and added it inside the migration folder. This makes database setups very easy and reusable. Image handle, this is an important point. We do not store images directly in the database. Instead, images are uploaded to storage services, for example, Firebase storage and Superbase storage likewise. The backend only store in the image URLs. For now, since we are focused only the backend, I am using example.com URLs as a placeholder. Later, when we develop the front end, I will explain how to upload images and send the URLs to backend. Next, KYC API means I created the following APIs: Postman KYC API and used to submit KYC details, and save document URL, selfie URL, and address. Then get KYC APIs, user to retrieve KYC detail by users. Then update selfie API. Sometimes user need to upload new selfie, and API allows updating only selfie images. All these APIs are added to Postman collection for easy testing and sharing. Next thing is authentication with JWT. This is very important. We do not need pass user ID manually in this API. Why? Because after login, the user already has JWT token. The backend can extract user ID from the JWT token. For KYC request, we pass the JWT token in the authentication header. The backend automatically identifies the users. This makes the API more secure and clean. Admin review flow is when admin reviews the KYC request, the admin ID must be stored in the review by column. The admin can add review note. The status is uploaded to approve or rejected. For this, I create a separate admin user table and the admin ID is passed correctly during the review process. I think I found the debugging issue. At the first, I faced some error. Incorrect. I think it is a incorrect review ID. Uh, we will check what is the error. Internal server is showing here. I think some field is missing. That is the reason. We will check what is the problem is. We save the API. I think it is get API. I asked GitHub Copilot give example KYC related API how to test in Postman. That is easy. I create a new tab and add the Postman at the GitHub Copilot given URL here, and self image URL also added here. Then this makes error here. I think make error fix is incorrect review ID. This is no, not passing review ID because of Sorry, I think not review ID problem. We will check it. Mostly it's missing IDs while updating selfie images. After checking the database request payload and the JWT data, I fixed the issue by passing the correct ID and improving the controller logic. This is the where AI tool like ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot helps a lot. They make debugging fast and still we must understand the logic ourselves. So now the KYC backend flows is ready, secure, scalable, and suitable for money transfer and applications. In the next step, we can connect this the front connect this with the front end and admin panel.